welcome back to Point Blank, making the cut on our show, Foreign Workers.
That's right, with us to chat about the issue are Mr. Fong and Mr. Tan, who are all residents of Jalan Kayu.
But before we continue our chat, we have more from the National Development Minister on the difficulties of housing foreign workers.
Rotate.
So how do we deal with this issue of housing for foreign workers? There are three principles that the government uses to guide us in this. The first is what I alluded to earlier, and that is that we need to keep the economy going. Restricting the numbers is not an option for us. Secondly, we need to give foreign workers a proper place to stay, which means having minimum standards of public health and safety. We don't want to be putting them or forcing them to stay in substandard conditions. They are here to work, to contribute, and I think we must make sure that they are properly housed, both for their own sake as well as for the sake of the general public. Then the third principle is that even as we provide for proper housing, minimum standards, we need to minimize the disamenities, minimize the inconvenience to our own local population. So this is obviously not easy to do, because I think between 2 and 3, there is a balancing that we need to do. So how do we do that? There are 4 ways that we are currently housing the foreign workers. First, of course, is residential housing. In other words, they can go into residential areas and rent a room or rent a house and so on, but within certain limits. The second way is through on-site dormitories. In other words, on-site, living on-site. In other words, construction workers, for example, if they are building the IRs, we encourage them to live on-site so that they are able to not just be near their workplace, but also be properly housed. So on-site housing is really more for the larger construction projects. The IR is a good example. So we have built purpose-built dormitories. These purpose-built dormitories are generally located further away from residential areas. They would have, as far as possible, facilities, basic amenities, whether it is canteens or provision shops, recreation areas, even a place where they can buy beer and drink, all within the premises. Then finally, in industrial estates, what we have done over the last few years is to relax the guidelines so that in part of the industrial estate, up to a certain percentage can also be used to house foreign workers. Industrial estates, some of them are actually near residential areas. So here, it is also not possible to totally segregate the foreign workers from the general population. But with all this in place, with all the different modes of housing in place, we still do not have sufficient bed spaces for everybody because of the large numbers that are coming in. There is still an immediate housing shortage. And this is the reason why we're now looking at short-term measures, temporary accommodation, even while we build or look for more permanent accommodation elsewhere, which we are doing. But some of these permanent accommodation will require facilities to be put in, like sewage, roads, and so on. So that will take some time. So in the meantime, what do? We start looking for places where we can put in fairly quickly some temporary accommodation. This could be empty land that we can build some temporary accommodation, or it could be vacant state properties. And Serangoon Gardens is one of these vacant state properties that we are looking at.
So, Mr. Fong, you were just telling us about the dormitories that you have in your area just now. Were you apprehensive when you first found out that dormitories were going to be built from the personal point of view?
Well, when right at the beginning when I learned about this, I do have a bit uneasy feeling. That's for sure.
Why?
Well, first of all is that we afraid of people conglomerate themselves together because, you know, living in the private estate is totally different living in a condominium. You know, in a condominium where you have security guards, whereas in the private estates, everybody's gates are open and you have younger children move in and out. And of course, when they started, the lighting systems in the area are inadequate at the beginnings, you know. And so these are the areas that I personally feel that a bit uneasy right at the beginning.
When did the foreign workers actually start to come into your neighborhood? Do you remember specifically?
Actually, it's about 3 over years. Maybe you can say 4 years.
You can actually feel the influx of
the
the foreign
influx
workers
of
into
these
it.
people. Yeah.
Okay.
So do you feel the same way as Mr. Fong, Mr. Tan?
Yeah, from resident point of view, is we are so concerned about safety and security.
Yeah.
But would you say, you know, in retrospect right now, 3 years from now, is it really such a big problem? I mean, have they really caused such a big problem to you guys? I mean, have they actually hurt any of your family members physically or directly? Have they actually caused a major problem within your neighborhood within these 3 years that they started coming in?
Well, I think what we have said, so far they have not created any problems, honestly. I think it's very simple. One reason, they know that the community is around.
I see.
That's one plus point.
Okay.
Have you visited a dormitory, Mr. Tan?
Yes.
How was it like? What was the experience like?
No, the dormitory life is different from ours.
Housing living.
Yeah.
It's definitely very much different, right?
Very
Yeah.
much different.
Did it make you understand them better or empathize with them a little more?
Oh yes, because once we visit them, we can communicate with them. We can find out from them, what is their requirement and so on. But slowly, then we can also try to help them to make themselves comfortable to live in the area.
That's true. All right, now one of our viewers actually, whatever Gig says, I agree, security is important. By the way, what kind of threats are we actually looking at? When you say threat, when you say that these foreign workers actually pose a threat to security, what kind of threats are you really looking at? Can you enlighten our viewers? What's on the feedback maybe that you have received so far?
On
I
a
think very
personal
simple. When you first threat, if you walk in as you say, a late night robbery, that's for sure.
Okay.
Right, that's the first threat.
Okay.
So you have to imagine, okay, will you just get robbed and that's all? I can give you all the money. But what's next?
Right.
So you build fear.
That's right. But wouldn't you say that these threats can easily be posed by a Singaporean, for instance? I mean, a Singaporean could rob, a Singaporean could rape, a Singaporean could bash someone up in the middle of the night. I mean, a lot of taxi drivers could testify to that. So what do you have to say?
Put it this, you want to answer? Put it this way,
Yeah.
I learned something I used to doing community work through the agencies. And I'm very sure these foreign workers are being briefed that if you committed some offense, straight away you will be deported.
That's right.
And this is what I know, and I feel, I should say, at ease when I start to involve with a lot of agencies.
So how do you overcome your fears ultimately, Mr. Tan?
No, I think residents in the first instance, when they see so many strangers coming in, they feel very uncomfortable and they feel insecure, But subsequently, when they make around with them and nothing happened, so now I think they feel better.
They feel the security is
Yeah.
there now.
No?
The assurance
Because
is
so
there.
far nothing has really happened.
Thanks to you guys. Anyway, Mr. Ma rounded up this morning's speech actually by reminding us that understanding and acceptance are key in dealing with this issue.